It was Edward's direct ancestor, William the Conqueror, who more than 2 centuries before had enshrined Latin and French as the written languages of state, banishing English. But as the 13th century gave way to the 14th, English was becoming the one language out of the 3 that everyone in the country could be counted on to know. In 1325, for instance, the chronicler William of Nassington could write,
Latin can no one speak, I trow, but those who it from school do know. And some know French, but not Latin, who are used to court and dwell therein. And some know Latin, though just in part, whose use of French is less than art. And some can understand English, who neither Latin know nor French. But unlettered or learned, old or young, all understand the English tongue.
And around the country, written English was emerging from the shadows. Songs in the French troubadour style, but with English words, appeared, as did a few vernacular poems. In some places, the old English religious homilies had continued to be copied and circulated. The bestiary, in which birds and animals were portrayed and their behaviour made the basis for lessons in Christian morality, was a particular medieval form. They were usually written, as here, in Latin. But in a late 13th century example, the text is not in Latin, but in English.
The wild deer has 2 properties. He draws out the viper from the stone with his nose and swallows it. The venom causes the deer to burn. Then he rushes to the water and drinks. The devil is like the whale. He tempts men to follow their sinful lusts, and in return they find ruin. It is the weak in faith, the little ones, that he thus beguiles.
And it was an animal which, in just a few years' time, would by a cruel twist of fate give English its greatest boost yet, a small black rodent with a Latin name. Ratus ratus, the black rat. In 1348, ancestors of these black rats deserted a ship that, coming from the continent, had docked near Weymouth. They carried a deadly cargo, a germ that modern science calls Pasteurella pestis, that the 14th century named the Great Pestilence, and that we know as the Black Death. Plague had come to Britain. Infected rats carried the deadly germ east, then north. They sought out human habitations, building nests in the floors, climbing the wattle and door walls, shedding the infected fleas that fed on their blood and transmitted bubonic plague. It's been estimated that between 1/4 and 1/3 of England's population of 4 million died. In some places, whole communities were wiped out. This is Ashwell in Hertfordshire. In the bell tower of the church, some desperate soul, perhaps the parish priest, scratched a poignant record on the wall in bad Latin.
The first pestilence was in 1350-1. 1350. Pitiless, wild, violent. Only the dregs of the people live to tell the tale.
The dregs were those of the English-speaking peasantry who'd survived. Though the Black Death was a human catastrophe, it set in train a series of social upheavals which would speed the English language along the road to full restoration as the real and recognised language of the nation. For one thing, the Black Death dealt Latin, the language of the church, a body blow. Where people lived communally, as the clergy did in monasteries and other religious orders, the incidence of infection and death was disproportionately high. At a local level, many parish priests either caught the plague from tending their parishioners or simply ran away. As a result of the plague, the Latin-speaking clergy in some parts of England were reduced by almost a half. Many of their replacements were barely literate laymen, whose only language was English.